Hello. In addition to using the right conjugation for the verbs we have in a sentence that is used to describe something in the past, it is important that we enrich what we are saying with some expressions that indicate when something took place. So, as you can see here, you have some expressions that you can use for particular times when something occurs. And we are focusing especially on time order expressions. I'm going to give you some vocabulary, as you can see here, that will help you be more specific when you're describing actions in the past. Of course, you can use the words before, as you can see in the headings. Before something happens, you can use the word before. You can use first to talk about the first thing that happened, next to talk about the following, and later you can use something like sometimes, or at the end you can use last. But besides that, we have some other expressions, and this is just a very limited list because I could not give you all the time expressions we can come up with to talk about actions that happened at specific times in the past. So take a moment to look at this list, and I will give you some others in the very first activity that we have to practice this, and also in future activities. So make sure that you understand these before we move on, okay? So you may have to pause the video if you like, but I'm not gonna ask you to do it if you already have taken a look at these. So look at these, make sure that you understand them. They all refer to something that happened prior to an event, at the beginning, later, some things that happen occasionally sometimes, and what happens at the end. All right, so you could use those expressions in your constructions or when you're describing actions in the past. All right, so I hope during this time you have taken a look at the list, and I have an activity for you. It's very simple actually. I am going to give you some expressions and you're going to complete some sentences based on the context that I provide for you. So look at these expressions, all right? And this is the official instructions, or the official instruction, singular. Complete the following sentences using the expressions provided, right? Look at the expressions, and now I'm going to ask you to pause your video, complete the exercise, as you can read here, and when you have the answers, you move on so that I can give you the right answers, and we can listen to the pronunciation of the native speakers that are going to model how we pronounce these. All right, so take a moment, pause the video right now. All right, I hope that you did it. And here I have some answers. You might not agree completely, especially because if we have some activities that happen at the beginning, you could use several and you could use some others. But here's a list actually of other expressions that might complement what I showed you in the first chart. All right, let's look at the first question. It says, after a long trip, we blank arrived at the lake. After a long trip, we, I propose, finally arrived at the lake. You agree? All right, listen to the pronunciation of this.
After a long trip, we finally arrived at the lake.
Good. Short, simple, concise. Next. Farmers have to harvest their crops, when they collect the fruit of what they planted. What of those expressions helps you there? The answer is periodically. Yes, so very at certain times during the year they have to harvest their crops. All right, listen to the pronunciation, please.
Farmers have to harvest their crops periodically.
Thank you. Oh, remember to pronounce after the native speaker so that you can practice and improve your pronunciation. All right, next. Blank, I think about learning to program computers. I think that is something that I do. What? My answer is every now and then. So periodically, every now and then. It's not as periodically as the cropping, or the crop harvesting, yes, for what a farmer plants. So we need to do it at specific times, because for crops we can waste products if we don't harvest them periodically. But this is something that we may do every now and then. All right, listen to the pronunciation.
Every now and then, I think about learning to program computers.
Good. Next, blank. We have two blanks here. Blank. Our roller coaster ride was smooth. Blank. It became wild. Right? Of those expressions, so something that happened first and something that happened later. So what do we have? Yes, at the onset, means at the beginning, our roller coaster ride was smooth. Then it became wild. Good. So it means it was really, really hard and extreme. Listen to the pronunciation, please.
At the onset, our roller coaster ride was smooth. Then it became wild.
All right. Thank you. Remember to practice pronouncing these words as well. Miss Morales has been a teacher for 10 years, but blank, she had studied law. Of those expressions, which one do you think helps us? You're right. Preceding that, she had studied law. Listen to the pronunciation, please.
Miss Morales has been a teacher for 10 years, but preceding that,
Right.
she had studied law.
Good. Thank you very much for completing the exercise, for listening to the pronunciation, and for practicing your pronunciation. You have to work on it so that you can become better at that. All right? In the next activity, we're going to continue to practice with actions in the past and time expressions, and we are going to focus on the logic behind some statements, so that what happened first, we have to understand the context, and then we have to order some events. So it is a challenge for you. I'll wait for you there.